If you're in the market for a good looking, well engineered small car which offers you a relatively compact dimension on the outside but a roomy cabin on the inside, then the new Honda Jazz is a car that you should check out. Now let's have a look at the interior, shall we? Well, the first thing I told myself as soon as I got inside the new Jazz's cabin is that all the other small cars or other hatchbacks in the Indian market now are in for a tough time, because the cabin on the Jazz feels like a very posh and upmarket place to be in. The dashboard is exactly the same as the one on the much bigger Honda City, and it has the same dials, and most of the equipment is similar as well. Where the Jazz has the edge over its rivals is in space and practicality inside the cabin. This really is one of the most practical and easy to live in cabins, and you get not one, not two, not three, but a total of 9 cup holders inside this cabin, and we'll show them to you by doing this photo montage now. Well, the seats on the Jazz are supreme on comfort, the under-thigh support is excellent, and the cushioning is good as well. Well, the Jazz is the only car in its class which offers you a touchscreen for the climate control, which is also a feature found on the Honda City, and it also gets obligatory features now like Bluetooth as well as steering mounted controls for the audio. Well, surprisingly, Honda have left out a start-stop button, and there's no button for the central locking as well. Now let's check out if the back seat of the Jazz is as impressive as the front ones. Well, here I am now in the back seat of the Honda Jazz, and as you can see, knee room is phenomenal, headroom is really generous as well, and just as always, I have adjusted the front seat for my driving position, and my height for reference is 5'10". This is one of the few small cars in the Indian market which should not have any problems for tall 6-footers sitting over here in the back seat, and this is also one of the few cars which people will consider buying just to be chauffeur driven in. Well, seat cushioning is very good as well, and because it is generally a wide car at the back and the floor panel is almost flat, you can generally sit 3 people over here in comfort, and they should not be too tired at the end of that long journey. Honda's principle of man maximum, machine minimum seems to have really paid off well in the back seat of the Honda Jazz. Well, another area where the Honda Jazz is the top dog in its segment is in the boot capacity department. Well, with 354 liters of boot capacity, not only is the Jazz the best car in the premium hatchback segment, but it can also trump a lot of rivals which are bigger in size, and some rivals which are in the sedan segment also don't offer a boot of this capacity. Well, it's a very well-shaped boot, and even the sill isn't very high from the ground, which means that loading in that heavy bag should not be too much of an issue. And I'll just show you the boot capacity and how big it is by putting in our camera bag in it, which is a decent size. And even if you put it low over here, there's still enough space for, I reckon, about 7 or 8 bags more, and really goes to show you the space inside the Jazz's cabin. But if you're not satisfied with those 354 liters, what you can do is drop the backrest of the back seats down and liberate even more space, and I'll show that to you now by using these buttons over here. Even though there's a bit of a loading lip over here, there's a bit of a lump, but even then it is a very big and spacious place to keep your knickknacks and your bigger luggage in. Well, if you want greater flexibility, you can always choose the top of the line VX version of the Jazz, which comes with the Magic Seat option. The Magic Seats gives you 3 extra options with the seats. You can make a flat bed with the front seats completely folded, and you can also fold away the bench on the back seats to keep those pots as well as flowers. And you can also change the backrest angle on the back seat, giving you great flexibility inside the cabin. Well, so here I am now driving the new Honda Jazz. Now this car of course comes with 2 engine options. There's a 1.2 petrol and there's a 1.5 diesel engine, and the diesel engine promises to be the more popular choice between these 2 engines, and that's largely because of the fuel efficiency that it delivers. Now Honda claims a fuel efficiency of 27.3 kpl, making it one of the most fuel efficient engines on sale in India. And going by our experience with previous Honda products like the Amaze and the City, which also have the same engine, we can rest assured that this one will also deliver strong efficiency figures. Well, the petrol engine comes with 2 gearboxes. There's a manual as well as an automatic to choose from, whereas the diesel only comes with a 6-speed manual version, and that gearbox has also been borrowed from the Honda City. Well, if you are going to be driving the petrol motor, it is a very refined unit, and it simply loves to be revved hard. Handling and overall ride comfort between the diesel and the petrol is more or less the same, But where the petrol has the advantage over the diesel is in the fact that the gearbox feels a little more crisp, and it is a more responsive engine to drive than the diesel, which simply feels very lazy below 2000 RPM. Well, the Honda Jazz's petrol motor seems to have the edge over some of its rivals in terms of both power delivery as well as overall responsiveness, and that motor simply loves to be revved hard. And when you are, of course, pushing that iVTEC engine, it remains largely quiet. Well, the petrol motor is pretty refined to drive, and it really loves to be revved hard. It's a 1.2 liter unit, but it feels like a bigger unit, and it has a lot more power as well. And if you rev it hard, you will truly be rewarded. Well, the diesel engine makes about 98 bhp of power, and it seems like a pretty decent engine in terms of drivability. There's a little bit of turbo lag before 2000 RPM, but once, of course, you cross that figure, it really does fly. The mid-range is very strong, and it goes all the way up to its red line of about 4000 RPM. Well, the only downside, just like the other cars which have the same engine in the Honda family, is the fact that it's not a very refined unit, and it does get a little loud when you rev it hard, and it doesn't seem as refined or as quiet inside this cabin as you would be inside a Hyundai Elite i20 or a Maruti Suzuki Swift. But that said, the plus point is that this is a more powerful engine, and it's a bigger unit than those two cars, and that, along with the additional 6th gear on this car, gives it greater flexibility on the highway. So if you are someone who uses the car on the highway very often, all you need to do is slot this gearbox into 6th gear and just sit at around 1500-1600 RPM, and the car is doing a relatively good speed of about 80-90 kph, which is under the speed limits on Indian highways, and you don't really feel too much of stress inside the cabin. In terms of handling and overall ride comfort, the Honda Jazz is probably one of the best cars in its class, and that extra long wheelbase, remember this is one of the longer cars in its segment, really does help in the suspension soak in those bumps. And at slow city speeds, there's hardly anything which really troubles the Jazz's suspension, and very few potholes enter into the cabin. And even at higher speeds, the car remains pretty stable and feels reassuring when you are doing those 3-digit speeds. Well, in terms of driver involvement, the Jazz cannot match the likes of the VW Polo or even the Maruti Suzuki Swift, and there's a little bit of body roll when you push it into the corners. Well, in terms of accuracy, the steering wheel is light enough for town travel, and if you are someone who has to park this car into tight spaces, the steering wheel should not pose a problem. It is pretty accurate for most of the part, and it does not feel light when you are taking it on the highway as well. It feels pretty reassuring, and the stability on the Jazz is probably one of the best on any small car in India. Well, the new Jazz seems to tick all the right boxes in the premium hatchback segment. It comes with a roomy cabin, a large list of features, and a very fuel-efficient diesel engine as well. And all that, along with the Honda badge up front, means that resale values will be very strong when you plan on selling this car again. And that makes the Honda Jazz one of the strongest packages in this competitive premium hatchback segment. But before you decide to put your money on one, don't forget to watch our review of its main rivals, the Hyundai Elite i20, by clicking on this link here, and also the Maruti Suzuki Swift by clicking on this link over here. And as always, don't forget to subscribe by clicking on this link above. It's bye for now, and hope to see you soon.